London and finished her 12th from Anand and went to Italy to study culinary arts. Currently, she is studying on a full scholarship at Sogang University in South Korea, double majoring in Global Korean Studies and Media and Entertainment. She is a person with her hands and legs spread in different countries, different cultures and different industries. She has worked in kitchens as a cooking instructor, as a translator and as a videographer. Currently, she is working towards entering the field of documentary production. With a dynamic experience as yours, our excitement to hear you speak just increases. Without further ado, we welcome you on the stage, ma'am.
Am I audible? Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nandita Kothari. It has been a very long time since I've stood on the stage and been on this campus. It's very nostalgic. I thought there would be a lot more students, so my speech was kind of targeted towards them, but I'm happy that there are some 11, 12 standard kids around. So before starting the speech, I wanted to ask the people in the audience if their kids know what they want to do after 12th, or if the students here know what they want to do after 10th, if they have a clear idea. But right now, since the light is in my eyes, I can't really see any hands. So I would assume that a lot of people, some people know what they want to do, but some people don't know what they want to do. And 6 years back, I was part of the second category. I had no idea what I wanted to do in the future. Now, most of you might have heard heard from the people around you that you need to find that passion that you'll follow in the life, or you need to find that one career path. You need to make your career path until you have graduated university or by the time you're of a certain age, right? Now, in India, we still have this thing where people divide our lives by the age. So, by this age, you have to do this, by this age, you have to be that. Like by the age you're 17 or 18, you need to graduate high school, then do a 4-year university course till you're 21, 22, do a 2 years master's degree, get a job, and by the time you're 25, 26, you get married and settle down. Right? That is, I've seen a lot of people around me following the same timeline, and it's probably the society, Indian society has conditioned us to think that this is the right way to do, right way to live the life. But the rebellious kid that I am, I never followed this timeline because I couldn't find any scientific logic behind this, why I should be following this. And that's why here I am, 25 years of age and about to begin my 4th and final year of an undergraduate course in South Korea. Now, I have done a lot of things, experienced a lot of things, learned a lot of new skills because I was never forced to follow this timeline. And a lot of that credit goes to, of course, my parents because they have always been super supportive and they have always let me experiment with my own life as I wanted. And also, I think because since my early education was done here at ABB, which is such an open school which encourages you to do so much extracurricular activities, I remember doing skating after school here in this exact ground. And I think that openness and exposure to so many new things built my early foundation to not be afraid to try new things and to always be open to do new things. So before getting into the story of what I've done until now as they gave my introduction, I wanted to talk about this concept called multipotentialite. Has anyone heard of it before? In modern society where being highly skilled in one thing is highly encouraged and everyone likes that, this concept is not very well known. Even I got to know it only a few days back. I was watching this TED Talk video by Emily Wapnick. She even has a written book about this. And she describes a multipotentialite as a person who has a lot of different interests, has a lot of creative pursuits. They don't have that one true calling that people tell that you need to find. And they have a lot of different career paths and they follow all of them, sometimes sequentially, but sometimes at the same time, or sometimes both. And after hearing that talk, I could finally figure out or finally understand what I've been doing until now. and how I've been living my life until now. Because I don't think I have a one true calling. I don't think I have that. My legs and arms are all over the place. So I'm not saying that learning a lot of new skills and getting all this exposure can be only done if you don't follow the timeline. I'm nowhere am I saying that timeline is a bad thing per se. I'm just saying that while it might work for some people, for some others like me, it has not really worked well. So when I finished my 11th standard, I left AVV after 7th grade and then I was in Anand. So after I finished my 11th, I decided to take my first big step into the big world, and I went on a year high school exchange program to Germany with AFS. And while it meant that I would be away for 10 months in a foreign country, learning a new language, meeting people from all around the world, it also meant that when I come back home in India, I would have to repeat a year, and that's why I graduated 12th 1 year later than all of my friends. So I was already 1 year behind the timeline, but I was also with this big bag of experience of living in a foreign country. Now after I finished my 12th, like a lot of people probably around here, I had no idea what I wanted to do or what one thing I wanted to work towards or what I wanted to be in the future. But at that time, I was really enjoying cooking and baking, and I had my little small business going on, and I was experimenting every night on my parents, making dinner. And since I was finding fun in cooking and baking at that time, I decided to pursue that as a career because I could see myself doing that for a long time. And therefore, I ended up going to Italy to study culinary arts. I was there for 2 years. They were amazing 2 years. I learned a lot about the restaurant industry. I worked in a lot of restaurants. I even did an internship at a Michelin star restaurant in Spain. So in the 2 years' time, I got fluent in Italian. I have my broken little Spanish. But after working in all these restaurants for over 2 years, I realized that working in a restaurant is a very, very hard life. And I was not prepared to do that. And I didn't think I was passionate enough to live that way for a very long time. So I decided to come back home after 2 years. I didn't finish my degree. So I was home, age of 22, with no degree in hand and work experience in a field that I didn't want to work in. So now the whole stress starts, what I will do next. That was a very stressful period of my life because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea what would be my next step. Will I work? Will I study further? I had no idea. And at that time I had a lot of free time because I was just home, left the university, I was home doing nothing. So I didn't want to waste any of that time because I cannot stay still. I'm one of those people who cannot stay still. I always have to keep doing something. So to do something productive, I decided to start learning Korean. Sounds very random, but I was following Korean TV for a very long time at that point. So I decided why not as well learn the language because, a new language in this new global world is always an asset. So I started learning Korean at home with YouTube and books and everything, and it was just a hobby. I had never thought that I would end up living in Korea or studying in Korea at that time. So I was studying Korean on my own, and at the same time I was also working at one of our family companies and also another organization called Empretech. So while working and learning, it took me around 1 year to finally decide what would be my next step in life. I still hadn't found that one thing that I wanted to work towards, but at that time I had gotten a lot better at Korean just by studying by myself. So I knew that I could get much better if I was in the right environment and got the right education. So at that time I decided that why not just take this Korean to the next level so that it could be someday used professionally in the future. So I decided to go to Korea to do a 6-month language course at a Korean university. And at that time, I learned a lot of Korean, of course. And I also realized, while living there, I realized that maybe this is the country where I could live peacefully. Like I felt like home, and I felt comfortable living there. And I felt like I could grow much more as an individual and as a professional if I were to live in South Korea. Because it has this unique characteristic of being a very tiny country, but an economic superpower. So everything is concentrated and much more accessible, even for foreigners. So if I wanted to live in Korea, first I had to graduate university. That without a university degree, it's almost next to impossible to live in Korea or even work in Korea. So at that time, I decided to, okay, let's try going back to university and try making a life here. So I decided to apply for undergrad, a transfer admission in Sogang University. And at that time, me and my parents, we were both very skeptical if I could still study 3 more years. I mean, I came back home after 2 years of studying at a vocational school. Imagine me studying for 3 years on normal classes. So we were all skeptical. We had a lot of discussion. We had a lot of debates about whether should I go or not. But in the end, we decided that if I get a scholarship on admission, I'll go and try it out for 1 year. And if it doesn't work, then I'll come back home. Because at that time, I was already 23 years old and I didn't want to take any more money from my parents to support myself, especially when I'm experimenting with my life. So, but thankfully, I got a partial scholarship on admission and we took the chance to start the first semester. And when the first semester started, I promised my parents that by the beginning of the next semester, I would be financially independent. I won't take any money from you guys, so just give me 6 months time to set my foundation over here. So in the first semester, I got a part-time job as a waitress at a Korean restaurant. I got a job as an Indian cooking instructor. So I was using all the Korean that I had learned. I was using all the culinary knowledge that I had, and I was trying to make a living out of it. And at the same time, in my mind, it was still a thing that I would be here for a year, and then there's still this uncertainty that I would have to go back home. So I had to make the most of my time over here. So to do that, I again decided to learn something new because I had to make the most of it. So I decided to start my own YouTube channel, a little tiny safe space for me to experiment. Because I was interested in the video production field, so I wanted to learn hands-on video shooting and video editing and stuff. So I started my own channel and just as a playground for me to learn new things. And the whole summer break in that semester, I worked super hard and I was able to earn my tuition fees and living expenses for the next semester. But thankfully, I got another scholarship from Samsung, which they mentioned earlier. I'm on full scholarship now. So financially, I was a little bit more stable, and now my parents didn't really have any issue with me being in Korea because they were not really, I was not asking them for money. So now begins my whole experimentation journey in Korea. For 1 year, I was working at these 2 part-time jobs. I was doing my YouTube. I was in a million clubs at school. I was playing tennis. I was doing a million things everywhere. And because of that, another incredible thing happened. National television in Korea called KBS, for one of the shows called My Neighbor Charles, they casted me to make a documentary on my life in South Korea as a foreign student because I was doing all these million things. And that was probably one of my biggest achievements that I had not even planned for. It just happened. And it was an amazing experience, just letting people know what India is and how Indians are and everything. So that happened, and after that I got offered an internship in video production because now my skills were good enough to get paid for. So I did an internship producing cooking videos for a company. And at that time, I learned again something new. I learned how to use a DSLR camera for the first time. So now I was learning how to actually shoot videos professionally using a professional camera. So I learned again that doing on the job. And then again, my hands started itching. Now I need something new to learn. So last summer break, I decided to start learning Japanese because Korea and Japan are very close. Korean and Japanese are very similar in some sense. And who knows, maybe 5 years later, I'm in Japan. So, for me, I never know where my life will take me. So I always keep learning new things that may come to use sometime in the future. So last semester, I started learning Japanese and still learning. I plan to continue to learning it. So over I think since I was a kid, even my parents have put me in dance, art, music, piano, skating, tennis, abacus, anything that you can imagine. I have gone to all of those classes. And even now as an adult, I make sure that I'm doing all sorts of different things and learning new sorts of things because that is what makes me happy. So as an outsider, it may feel like she's exhausting herself. Has all her hands and legs in all different fields of work and interests. But for me, what Emily Wapnick said in a TED Talk is probably a multipotentialite. For me, it's a way of living. For me, I don't feel pressured to find that one thing that I want to achieve in life. I feel happy doing all these multiple things at the same time. And honestly, a lot of skills are transferable across industries. So it's not something that one time you're doing something, the other time you're not doing or not using that skill. So I've found that a lot of things are transferable, and every time you learn something new, you will also gain this new perspective of life because you are doing something from zero again. So it helps you understand yourself much better, especially by age. Your learning also differs. So what I'm trying to say is, in my personal opinion, I don't think there's a set timeline that you need to follow. It is completely okay to not go to university after you finish 12th, directly after you finish 12th. It's completely okay to take a gap year. It's completely okay to take time to explore the world, to take time to understand yourself, to take time to learn something new. So everyone has their own pace of life, everyone has their own timings, and I hope that the students who are here, they will take some time to think about this and plan their future. And I hope everyone here has a great future and everyone has good health. Thank you so much.